I think one of the most attractive things about nature and wildlife photography is that it gives you a real reason to get out there and explore. You know, it gives my adventures purpose. It can take you to the most unlikely locations and kind of egg you on and push you to go that little bit further, go that little bit earlier on, or just stay that little bit longer suffering in these weather conditions. Because ultimately, it's an unpredictable thing and we rely a lot on luck. It's not something you can curate in a studio, it's not something that can be constructed. You've just got to be out there and align as many of those variables as possible, and then just roll the dice and hope it all comes together when you need it to. And so here we are in the top end, staring down the wet season, crossing our fingers. I've done everything I can, now it's up to nature.
It's the wet season in the top end of Australia, and we're here with the GFX100S 2 and 500mm GF Prime. We've got an amazing adventure this week. We've got helicopters, boats, we're out on foot, so much to capture with our wildlife and nature photography.
So I think what gets me excited about wildlife photography and what motivates me in it is that most people never get to experience it. It's something that people generally aren't either aware that it exists, or they're not willing to go that little bit further, they're not willing to go that little bit harder, climb that mountain, go through that bush, get up at that time of the morning, whatever it might be. And I think wildlife photography is something where I can share, I guess, a huge part of the world that is invisible to most people. Even if you love wildlife, you get a different level of appreciation by seeing high-res, really crystal clear photos of it. I always describe wildlife photography as having two levels. There's the technical part, which is getting the focus right, making sure what's supposed to be sharp is in fact actually sharp, and nailing things like the exposure. But the second part is the storytelling bit, and that's really difficult. It needs my undivided attention. That's where I kind of rely on the camera. Its job is to be a tool, to manage or simplify some of the technical aspects of photography, and it frees me up to focus on things like capturing the right moment, in the right light, in a right and creative composition. What I want to be thinking about is the tiny catch light in the eye that appears when the animal moves its head, not thinking about whether the focus point lands on the eye itself. I just want that to happen, and that's where things like the AI subject detection really comes into its own. Shooting with a high-resolution sensor is paramount in wildlife photography. When you've got animals moving in unpredictable ways and sometimes quite erratically, simply framing the shot a bit wider than intended and then refining the composition with a crop wildly increases the odds of actually capturing the moment. But saying that, I think people underestimate how much resolution you actually drop when you start cropping an image in. And so starting from 102 megapixels as a base means you still retain spectacular details in an image, even when you have to push it in a bit. So it's really important that the lens quality matches the sensor quality. There's no point in capturing high resolution detail on the sensor if the lens is actually not giving you that image quality through. This combination, we've been playing with it for a few days now, and it's actually remarkably good. And I think traditionally lenses need to be stopped down a bit, especially when they're an f5.6 lens, and that can be really disappointing. This one, on the other hand, I've been shooting at f5.6 for almost every single shot, and it is tack sharp, even when paired with some of the teleconverters. So the optics in this are very impressive, especially considering the weight of it. Using a 500mm lens extended out with a teleconverter usually means lugging a whole bunch of extra gear around to stabilize it. The reality is that whilst things like monopods and tripods can help you, they're also going to really slow you down. And when you're looking at the world through a creative lens, you need to be agile and just run with that moment. So having a stabilization system that gives me up to 8 stops of improvement means I can get the sharpness I need even at 102 megapixels. It doesn't hurt that this kit weighs next to nothing as well. So I've owned my fair share of lenses in the past for wildlife, and I can tell you now that none of them have fitted in my bag like this one does. When you pull it off the camera, it can actually fit sideways across the bag. It means that I can take my whole lens kit with me. You know, there's often this decision, am I going out this morning to do wildlife, landscapes, or a combination? And if I do a combination, I'm usually having to carry a second bag with a lens in it. So the fact that this can pack down with the lens hood collapsed and it fits in the bag perfectly, it's a pretty big bonus because it means it's with you. And with wildlife being such a luck-based sport, it means that the odds are you're going to get the shot because you've got the gear. Been lucky enough to grab a helicopter, and it allows us to get to places that other people just simply can't get to at the moment. It's also a really unique perspective because when everything's so covered in thick, knee-high grass, it is really difficult for us to get around. And so just to be able to jump around the place, getting up in the air gives us this ultra-wide view and can really help you to picture what's going on the ground when you're looking at these photos. And so I think that, to me, taking the landscape shots and the waterfall shots in between the wildlife, it really paints the proper picture of what we're seeing up here on the top end. So it's super wet up here, and there's lots of places that are closed off. It's either flooded or a bit treacherous. Absolutely hammered by the rain. Camera's good, everyone's good, but we didn't get quite down to the end of the falls there. So we've come back up, got a nice long exposure. Mate, this is adventure photography at its finest. I'd love to see that the images that we capture this week up here in this wet season inspires people to actually maybe look at the world a little differently. Maybe to try and reconsider whether the time of year that's perfect for tourism is actually the time they want to go and visit something. I want you to see these images, and I'd like people to realise that there's just so much more out there.